The Truth in Your Face, Part 15A.
This video will be a little bit different. Instead of showing a clip from a show or movie that shows the truth in plain sight, first I'll play a video of a guy explaining what happened in the newest season of American Horror Story, so if you haven't seen it yet, spoiler warning.
It's President Nixon not really enjoying the increasing protests against the Vietnam War. It's 1972 and the war is already 7 years in, and as we learn from Valiant Thor, the war is all a ruse to distract the American people from all the abductions that have been happening. If you recall back to episode 7, the aliens were wanting 5,000 abductions per year. Nixon hears the bad news that the first functioning hybrid won't be ready until 2021, and in order to keep the American people oblivious to the alien presence, a whole menu of distractions have been prepared. It's implied that things like 9/11, the war in Iraq, and other such major events were orchestrated by the aliens in order to distract the American people. We also meet Henry Kissinger, Nixon's Secretary of State, who happens to be an alien reptile. Yup, in the very last episode, they decide to throw in this other alien race who is on Earth for some reason. And this totally made me think of the 1983 miniseries V, in which reptile aliens disguised as humans take over the Earth.
I don't know.
3 years earlier, former President Ike Eisenhower is on his deathbed lamenting the deal he made with the aliens. He also knows the presence of this second alien species because it turns out one of the humans Thor abducted was one of these reptilian creatures, and it's never really mentioned how Ike knows about this. Mamie, on the other hand, can't seem to stop thinking about ED Day, Evacuation Day, not Erectile Dysfunction Day. Like she says, it's the day when British troops evacuated Boston during the American Revolutionary War. Thor arrives and tells Eisenhower that he need not die. He could be taken to Area 51 where the alien tech could keep him alive. This is why we see Calico, who was abducted in the 60s, hasn't aged a day. Ike tells Thor and Mamie that they deserve each other, which is a slight jab at them considering they made sweet, passionate robot love a few episodes ago. Mamie doesn't want to die like her husband, nor does she want Nixon blabbing about the alien presence. So Mamie becomes Deep Throat, the secret informant who leaked to journalist Bob Woodward that Nixon was wiretapping the offices of the Democratic National Committee. In the show, Nixon had asked Gordon Liddy to wiretap it, believing it was the office of Valiant Thor in an attempt to expose the alien presence. And to make sure Nixon no longer is a problem, they have him abducted and anal probed until he resigns. In 1979, Mamie is brought to Area 51 to live out the rest of her life, which I guess is eternity. I don't really know. They never mention exactly how long they can prolong life. We hear on the radio that Mamie supposedly died of heart failure. Calico and Mamie instantly become best friends, and we fast forward to present day, right after the deadly events of episode 9, in which Cal was sucked to death by his alien baby. I don't know about you, but getting sucked to death doesn't seem that bad. A special task force has been brought in to investigate, and when they come across the dead alien body, Theta remarks that she hasn't seen a hybrid anomaly like this in at least 2 cycles. It is somehow regressed, but it's never brought up why. Kendall and Jamie end up finding their friends Cal and Troy dead in the moon landing room, and you'd think this room, which contains super top secret information, would at least have a lock on it or something. Theta uses her Jedi mind powers to knock out the two, who then wake up ready to give birth. The last hybrid to be born there was the closest they've come to perfection, and Theta thinks one of their babies could be that perfect hybrid Thor mentioned some 50 years earlier. Jamie's baby isn't quite up to snuff, and both she and the baby are killed. Kendall, on the other hand, delivers the perfect specimen. The baby is quickly whisked away, and Kendall's head severed off, only to be replaced by this giant metal sphere. They'll keep using her body over and over again as a vessel for producing these hybrids. Later on, Theta will explain how Kendall will go on to deliver a new baby once every hour. With the news that the aliens have produced a perfect specimen reaching Mamie, she asks Thor what's next. The plan is to completely populate the world with these hybrids while simultaneously eliminating the human race. Mamie, of course, will be spared, and along with her husband Ike, will be revered as heroes.
Continuing on. So according to Valiant Thor, the Vietnam War was actually just a ruse to distract the American people from the abductions that have been happening. Apparently it was around 5,000 abductions per year by the gray aliens. Now you can say what you want, but this has been talked about by several whistleblowers with inside knowledge and inside information about what actually happened. Let's not forget about Edward Snowden releasing documents about advanced civilizations living inside the planet, or these tall white beings that arrived on Earth to help Nazis build fucking submarines in the 1930s. That ties into the Philadelphia Project. Basically, in the 30s, they were doing transmedium experiments on battleships. Supposedly, one of the battleships disappeared, then reappeared with the crew members literally being merged to the ship. Now, if you want to know more about the Tall Whites, look up Charles Hall. He talks about living in the government with the Tall Whites in Nevada for 2 years. And you can choose not to believe that either. On to the former Minister of National Defense of Canada. Here's some of what Paul had to say in 2013.
Finally say that there are live ETs on Earth at this present time, and at least 2 of them probably working with the United States government. The other species that I learned about not too long ago was called the Tall Whites. And this is when Paula Harris broke the story just a few years ago. And through her good offices, I had the chance to talk for about 3 hours with former Airman Charles Hall and listen to this absolutely fascinating story of how he was working with, first of all, he was scared out of his skin. But after that, when he got to know them, how he was working with, and finally they became to trust each other and have a good working relationship with the Tall Whites at the gunnery range at Indian Springs. The aim of the game is a world government comprising members of the cabal who are elected by no one and accountable to no one. And according to Mr. Rockefeller, the plan is well advanced.
Continuing on, the first functioning hybrid won't be ready until 2021. Weirdly enough, it seems like they've been putting aliens in entertainment a lot recently. Almost like they're putting it right in our faces.
America, take a good look at your beloved candidates. They're nothing but hideous space reptiles.
And don't get me started on Inside Job or this season of American Horror Story. And to keep the public oblivious from the alien presence, a menu of distractions have been prepared. Things such as 9/11, the war on Iraq, and other major events that have been orchestrated by the ETs, literally just to keep us distracted. Apparently, Henry Kissinger, the Secretary of State for Nixon, is a reptilian shapeshifter. And David Icke seems to believe he's a reptilian, and I'd assume he has his reasons. Also, for those who aren't aware, David Icke was one of the first people talking about adrenochrome, and if he was right about that, what else is he right about? Continuing where we left off, apparently Henry Kissinger, who is Nixon's Secretary of State, is supposedly a reptilian shapeshifting humanoid, whatever. And David Icke thinks this as well for whatever reason. Like I said, he probably did his research and figured something out. I read an article that said David Icke literally went through the bloodlines of all the elites and found out like who's a reptilian and who's not. Like who's tied to those Babylonian bloodlines. Hey, you can say it's a coincidence, but why would American Horror Story put that in there randomly? A big problem that people have with this season is that the reptilians just come out of nowhere. Henry Kissinger's looking in a mirror and you can see his little snake tongue slithering out. The reptilians are just kind of there. Makes sense now, doesn't it? You want to know why so many people don't like the new season of American Horror Story? It's not because it's not good, I'll tell you that. There might be some plot holes, but when you realize how much of the shit that they say in the show is actually tied to reality, it's pretty crazy. Continuing on, so apparently the way they found out about these reptilians was from Valiant Thor accidentally abducting one of the reptilians. They say that they have alien tech to prolong life, which, knowing about adrenochrome, I definitely don't doubt it now. If there's ways to prolong life using life, I would assume that there's other ways to artificially do it as well. A big part about this season is the making of human-alien hybrids. And people will deny this shit all they want, saying, oh, there's no proof of this, oh, you'd think that there'd be some proof. This whole account is proof. The things that I'm showing you on this account is literally all the proof you need. They put this shit in your face as a joke so you think it's a joke and that it's not real. That's what they have to do. They literally have to tell you about it and then make it seem like a joke so that you don't believe it. That's what they're doing. I mean, I haven't even talked about Monsters, Inc. yet. Continuing on, so Nixon wiretapped the Dem Committee basically to expose the alien presence. In the show, he had Gordon Liddy wiretap the offices believing it was Valiant Thor's. People can say what they want about that too. But as I'm reading my handy-dandy history answer book right now, as you can see here, all 5 men who were caught in the break-in were indicted on charges of burglary and wiretapping, including Gordon Liddy. Now, apparently it was a scandal to get Nixon elected to a second term. And all I'm saying is the person who wrote this season must know some shit. So in the show, they had Nixon abducted and anal probed until he resigned. The aliens' goal is to populate the world with these hybrids while simultaneously eliminating the human race, subjugating them to this new world order. According to Valiant Thor, humans have destroyed Earth the same way a gardener destroys a garden. In the show, the reptilians and the Greys become allies, realizing that the reptilians have tech that could become useful to the Greys. Weirdly enough, we see Valiant Thor giving them an iPod, and then we see Steve Jobs in, like, the next scene. Coincidence? I think not! Alright, continuing on, I'm gonna need to talk like Barry Allen. Alright, so we got Valiant Thor, an alien robot who's there to make sure that the business at hand is dealt with efficiently. Now, the real Valiant Thor was apparently from Venus. Supposedly, the story goes, on March 16th, 1957, 3 ETs landed in a field in Virginia. Upon the arrival of local police, Thor requested to meet with the president. The police took him down to the Pentagon, not asking questions, because apparently he spoke to them using telepathy. And I mean, yeah, I guess I wouldn't question it either if an alien talking to me through my mind was telling me to do something. Yeah, makes sense. Now, upon meeting with the president, Thor made it known that he represented an intergalactic high council who were worried about the Earth's nuclear capabilities and human extinction possibilities due to nuclear warfare. Man, I'm excited to tie these loose ends together. So that reminds me of the story of Admiral Richard E. Byrd, American naval officer and explorer. Now, in his journal of his expedition to the South Pole in 1947, Byrd claims to have seen iceless land areas with mountains, lakes, greenery, and vegetation, where none should be. And while roaming Antarctica for over 7,000 miles, he hadn't reached the end of it. Huh? And people have tried to say that Admiral Byrd is just talking about the Queen Maud lands in Antarctica. I've debunked this though, so don't even try to say that. Go check out the Hollow Earth account on this account or my YouTube. Byrd then notices that he finds a flying saucer flying beside him. He notices a Nazi symbol on the saucer. The video would get taken down if I didn't say it like that. Then he gets greeted by these tall, blonde, white, Germanic-looking people. Remember those tall white people I talked about Edward Snowden referencing that live in the center of the earth? Continuing on, the reason I brought this up is because of the message that these people said to Bird. Let's watch this video from Spirit
Several men are
Science.
approaching on foot towards our aircraft. They are tall with blonde hair. In the distance is a large shimmering city, pulsating with rainbow hues of color. I do not know what is going to happen now, but I see no signs of weapons on those approaching. I hear now a voice ordering me by name to open the cargo door. I will comply. End log. From here, the diary recounts the events after landing. The author is taken by a smooth floating platform to a city of elegant futuristic technology, and after being given a mysterious beverage, is asked to take counsel with some kind of alien or underworld race's leader. The leader tells him that they are concerned with the humans' use of nuclear weapons, power the human race is not ready for. He is asked to relay this concern to human leaders. When he is returned to the US, he's asked to keep this experience a secret, and it is only from this diary entry that we have any information on the supposed warnings of an inner Earth race.
That's not the only one. And, you know, that's really weird that they say Valiant Thor's from Venus. He's from Venus? He's Venusian? Really? You remember the guy who made 90% of the technology that we use for modern times? Nikola Tesla? Well, let me point you to these CIA declassified documents, which claim Nikola Tesla is Venusian as well. So what does that mean? I got a video on my YouTube, 30 minutes long, everything about Nikola Tesla. Don't tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't even know what to say at this point.